brings up the point of how, like, the ideal situation would be if your Sifu was your actual father, you know, and he was you know, he's the one who created you, and then he just taught you the way of the martial arts since you've been born, and then say he passes away at 80, and then you're 60 years old, and then by the time at 60 you've learned with him for 60 years, and then now you're passing on the family name. He was your Sifu, and you learn for 60 years. But typically that's not the situation. But that is normally what happens in the Chinese martial arts, because the Chinese martial arts would go by family. You know, it'd be like Li family, Ying family, Wong family. Basically, it passes on by family. But in America, or now that people don't practice martial arts as much, because a lot of Chinese people don't even practice it themselves anymore, people are seeking for Sifus outside of their family. So your father is, you know, say he's not a martial artist, but you want to learn martial arts. Now you're going to try to join a martial arts school to find a Sifu. Now if you find a Sifu that you really connect with, the issues that can arise is, you know, what if he moves away, or you move away, or his school shuts down, or he passes away, or you know, you lost, you know, you don't have as much, you don't have money anymore, or, you know, you just lose connection for whatever reason. Maybe something happened that didn't make you feel comfortable. Now you don't train anymore. And what ends up happening is, you, like you said, you know, you might train for 4 years, and then now you don't have his guidance anymore, and you're kind of like you're on your own now. And that happened to me too, you know, because I had the Sifu, but then there was a conflict between my Sifu and like my parents, and then I ended up having to separate from the school, and then now I'm on my own. And once you get put out there on your own before you're ready, it's a tough time period, you know. And then I ended up learning from other students from other disciplines, and I ended up getting a hold of Bruce Lee's books, and that became like the foundation to like my spiritual growth and my growth in the martial arts, you know. And even though Bruce Lee was not alive, his teachings kind of reached through to me as if he was alive, you know. And then he pretty much became my master, but not living, but in a way still guiding me, my guiding principle. And then he gave references to other things, to sources to go towards, like the Tao Te Ching, right? So then I started going to Tao Te Ching. He started mentioning Zen, so I started learning about Zen. And then he started mentioning J. Krishnamurti, so I learned from J. Krishnamurti. And then it led to Osho, and Osho is the person that I mainly study now. Now it's at the point where it's like I don't really have any living masters, but I have to be a master unto myself, and then be able to be a guide for people that need a living master at this moment, you know. And it's not an easy route, but that's typically what ends up happening, is that you don't always have that Sifu there for you at all times. But I do have my father still here, and he still helps me run the school and contribute to the school. I have other people contributing to my life to help me build the school, you know. And once you find a great Sifu, I guess the only thing that you can do is just hope for the best and try to learn as much from him as you can while he's living. And then if he passes away, then you just do your best to represent like the martial arts the way that you feel it needs to be represented, you know. And he may or may.
That leads me on to Sifu. That I'd like to speak about the. I mean, the people that which I've studied from a long time, Bruce Lee and Osho I've looked into, and yourself from since you started on YouTube. I was studying yourself from watching the videos and all the different philosophies I was watching, and other people I've been watching, like Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather, and there's many different people, Jet Li, Tony Jaa, Is it Michael J. White? I've been watching all these different people, and I find that in the end, the consciousness is with yourself. I feel that it is with yourself. You know, you're the only one that's out there that's speaking upon these topics. There's no one actually, you know, there's no one really speaking on this. You're the only person, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's partly the main reason why is because of Bruce Lee, is because like what really transformed my life were his books. Like him introducing me to Eastern philosophy and the Tao Te Ching and all that beauty of the Eastern way of thinking and the Eastern way of living really changed my life. It wasn't, yeah, you know, he was really cut, he was really fast, he could spar, but that wasn't what really changed me. You know what I mean? Like you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger was a lot more, you know, into bodybuilding than Bruce Lee, and he was like really great at what he did. But Arnold Schwarzenegger is not life transforming to me, you know. And if you just focus on just the physical and Bruce Lee, that's not enough. That's just like focusing on just focusing on, oh, Floyd Mayweather is such a big influence on me because he won 50 fights in a row. Like, how is he helping your life? You know. But when you have someone like Bruce Lee that actually put down in writing things that can transform your life as far as being a better person and just like learning how to let go of material possessions, learning how to let go of attachment, learning how to like get rid of depression, learning how to like, you know, understand racism and working hard to just, you know, overcome challenges in life. Like that's what he brought to my life, and that's what I want to bring to the people out there, is basically like be the living part of him now, you know, like be the person that's able to speak what he was trying to teach in his books, you know.
Definitely, and that's why myself, when we started this video, I couldn't believe that you're not famous by now. You know, I couldn't believe that. You know, why are you not renowned? Why are you not like, you know, all these riches and that? That's you know, because what you're giving to people, you can't buy that. You can't. It's you know, it's like a Buddha or Jesus Christ or Muhammad. It's the greats. It's up there, you know, and that's what I seen Bruce Lee as. And when I went into it, and then I've been studying all different people, and then I see that he lies with you now, and that's how I see it. You're the only one that's teaching that and making people aware of that, and no one else is really. I mean, Conor McGregor, let's say he's teaching, he's talking about Zen and this, but he's not really teaching it to the mass. All he's showing to the mass people is, buy my fight, I'm gonna fight, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get rich off you, and you're not gonna get rich off me internally, but I'm gonna get rich off you externally, meaning I'm gonna get all the material possessions, I'm gonna get all the money, but internally, becoming rich internally, there's that, you can't put a price on that. That's something which is not a lot of people are teaching. Only you're teaching that. So I mean, there's no one else which is really teaching that, you know.
Yeah, I mean that
in the modern day age.
I mean that's my main aim, and I think the process, the direction that I went towards is more of like that turtle, where he's just taking step by step, but he's still moving. Like every day I'll check the YouTube and I might get like 1 or 2 more subscribers, you know. It's like, but it's still growing, you know, opposed to just like exploding like a Conor McGregor out of nowhere and then all of a sudden he's like famous everywhere. It's just like over time, like even Buddha was teaching for like 40 years or longer, you know, and like Lao Tzu lived pretty much his whole life, and Osho was teaching for a long time. He has a lot of books out there. I think this is something where I'm willing to be patient because it's leading towards a greater consciousness, you know, because people, I mean, eventually they're gonna get sick of seeing all these fights. I mean, how many fights do you have to see to the point where you'd be like, you know what, this is just boring. I mean, I've seen this so many times already.
To become liberated.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, man, it's like the same stuff over and over again. It's like, is there anything new? And then it's just like, when they come and they actually listen to listen to what I have to say, it could really, it could be really liberating at that moment, because I know it's liberating because that's what happened to me. I mean, at the time when I got introduced to those teachings, I was going through kind of a transitional period of trying to understand myself, and I'm like, why do I think so different than everybody else? Why is that? And I couldn't explain that. I'm like, why is it that everybody's all into this stuff, but then I'm not? But then when I started reading Bruce Lee's stuff, and he showed me the stuff in Tao Te Ching, and that was coinciding with me, that was just like, it was amazing. Because I'm like, man, like, there's something special about who I am in the inside that I shouldn't be ashamed about, And I should actually embrace that and basically use that as a way to reach out to people that are like me. Because I think there's people out there that they see the wrongs that I see, but they just don't want to say anything because they don't want to be the only ones by themselves that don't support everything that's going on out there. And I'm just saying, I don't need to be as famous as Conor McGregor, but I just want people to see that, hey, if you like the martial arts, it doesn't mean you have to do what he's doing. Like, you could express the martial arts in a healthier way and in a more peaceful way, that's gonna be better for you and ultimately the world. So there's really nobody else, not that many people out there teaching the martial arts in that balance. They're either telling you, okay, go to church and don't fight, or go in the cage, pick one. Like, I'm like saying, no, like be able to fight, but don't fight. Be fit, be spiritual, be meditative, and just use the martial arts as a tool to enhance your life and the people around you. And be able to speak to somebody like you from another country because we're talking about something we have in common. That's something that's beautiful, is when you could connect with all different races because you have that commonality of the martial arts. Like, the commonality has broke between, the martial arts has broke between the racial barrier, between Chinese and white and black. It's brought us together to just appreciate each other without thinking about race as separating us, And that's the thing that martial arts can bring to the people, is not division, but actually harmony, And I'm just talking about preserving the essence of the martial arts by truly learning from the Chinese people, because I was born in America. I am considered an American, but I keep studying the Chinese people because there's something special there that we don't have over here. And I'm not afraid to admit that, because it's true. And as long as we learn that part and we bring that to America, then Americans will greatly benefit. Because China's doing that to America. They're like, you know what? We have meditation here. We have spirituality here. But why are we still poor? Why does America have all this stuff and then we are poor? So they're learning about capitalism and they're implementing it in their country. Well, we already have capitalism here. We need to learn that spirituality and bring it over here, so we stop killing each other with all this gun violence and killing each other in the cage, killing each other in the football field. Like, we are destroying ourselves because we don't have that meditativeness and that spirituality. And we need to learn that from them. Just like they're learning from us how to profit, how to become one of the biggest global superpowers in the entire world. They're learning that from America. And if we don't learn from them, we're going to self-destruct. Because all we care about is materialism, about money, about competition, about hurting each other. We're not even like growing, like spiritually. And I'm just basically saying that, like, we need to learn from qualified, like, kung fu teachers out there. Not necessarily that he has to be Chinese, but that essence has to be there, you know. And typically the Chinese master has to kind of authorize the non-Chinese person to say, hey, you know what, you got it, you got this essence, so now go ahead and teach it, because I am backing you up. I am telling everybody that I support your message because it's the same as mine. It's the same message. So I'm your master, I'm your Sifu, and you go ahead and do your thing. But the problem is they're not getting permission from the Chinese master, and they're just corrupting it and teaching it how they think it is, but then it's not really that. Like, they're putting their own ego in there. They're putting their own narcissism in there. They're putting their own, like, mental illnesses in the teaching, and then making it seem as if it's the same teaching, but it's not. You know, because I'm telling you, like, the essence is this humbleness where it's like you don't compete and you don't even teach because there's nothing to teach, because you don't think you know anything. You're just like everybody else. And you are leading by example, not even knowing that you're leading by example. Like, that's really like the Chinese master, where he doesn't even say anything, but he's just living the life. And that is hard for people to understand, you know. Like, Westerners are all about talking and intellectualizing everything, and PhDs, and showing how knowledgeable they are. But the Chinese master, or these Eastern masters, this, like, the art of teaching through silence, like just observing the Chinese master's life. Like, say you followed Buddha or Bruce Lee around 24 hours a day for 40 years. You're gonna be transformed because you're observing his entire life, as you know, for 40 years. It's not the same as just listening to somebody speak about spirituality with great flowery words for 2 hours, and all of a sudden now you think you're enlightened because you listen to this great presentation on the Tao Te Ching or something like that. You know, it's not the same. You know, that's why when you learn when you learn from a Chinese kung fu master or a Sifu, you're not just learning from what he says. You're learning from observing his life. Like, you're with him like every day, and you're watching him, and you're learning from things that he's not even saying. You know, and that changes you. You know, and I think people don't understand that. They think that you could just learn everything online in just one click of a button. But to master kung fu, or to master, you know, this Chinese way of living, it doesn't come so. Yeah, you know,
it's a constant learning process.
Yeah, it is. You know, just because for me, that's what I do when I learn from my father. It's all like non-verbal. Like, he doesn't say anything, but he just is the way that he is. And it's so different than anybody else that I ever meet in America. It's very different. You know, like, he's like naturally humble, naturally, like, not aggressive, not trying to feel that he knows it all or that he's special. Like, he's just naturally just always in the background all the time. You know, like, nobody even notices him. Like, he's just naturally like that. And
yeah, I see Sifu. A lot of people in spirituality, they have a high level of consciousness. You know, if they understand, like you're saying, that constant learning process. How many more times can people watch a fight until they see that liberation within themselves, until they see, well, what's next? It's that higher consciousness which is in spirituality that people don't see. But then you've got a lot of people going into different religions, and they're like, oh, there's so many Muslims everywhere. And they're just everywhere. Islam is going to be the biggest religion out of all the religions. They're just beating everyone with what they're doing, because they're seeing that a higher power. They're not seeing themselves as who they are, as I'm the best. That's it. They're looking at themselves. They're looking at a higher consciousness. There's someone else that's higher than them. They're always constantly learning. But spirituality, I feel that's more than religion. Spirituality is more than religion, because you can look at it as a higher conscious level within yourself. You're constantly learning. Spiritual growth, you're constantly learning. But whereas religion is concerned, Islam, you can look at it as a perspective as Allah, they're seen as, there's a person there which is always at a higher level than you. It doesn't matter how much of a high level that you're going to be at. There's always someone there that's going to be at a higher level than you. And spiritual growth teaches you that. Without religion, there's no need for religion. That teaches you that. Whereas a lot of people don't look into it, and I feel that that's what you're teaching. Away from all religion, away from all cultures, away from you're teaching that as a whole of that consciousness.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's great that you bring those parallels in, and I think that's a very important teaching is to be able to acknowledge a higher power, and that is what essentially gets you to eventually learn to transcend the ego, because the ego always wants to be like the one in control, the one in power at all times. And once you acknowledge something to be higher than you, you're pretty much allowing that ego to dissolve. And in the martial arts training, when you have the right master, Sifu, he's supposed to be like the living representation of that. Where if you don't have a religion that teaches that, like, that master becomes that symbol, where it's like, don't try to compete with me, don't try to be better than me, but just accept me as your guide, and that I am here to help you, go beyond where you're at. And I think a lot of this martial arts training honestly is designed to kind of liberate yourself from this ego, and to pretty much achieve like mental wellness, and kind of relieve you of mental illnesses. And it's almost like a moving psychological therapy, because people are going through a lot of depression out there, a lot of like mental instability in a lot of different areas in their life, and martial arts is a way to heal you in here, not just physically, but like in here, the mental, and then eventually the spiritual. It becomes who you are, and then you become this energy that everywhere you go, people feed off of that positive energy, and it uplifts them. You don't even have to say anything, but just your presence makes them feel like this force that's greater, that makes them want to become better. Like, that's ultimately what martial arts can bring to the people. And I think still in America, it's still unrecognized that they're just getting glimpses of martial arts by just looking at the combat, but they have not fully experienced what true martial arts really is. And that was what Bruce Lee was trying to introduce during his time. But still, after 50 years, it still has not impacted America in its entirety, because America has picked and choose what they wanted. They said, okay, we just want this fighting part, so let's just market that part. But let's forget about all this spirituality, all this meditation, and all this being peaceful. That's not gonna sell. Let's just do the fighting. So they use the martial arts for the fighting, and that's all they care about. And then they kind of have a separate thing where there's just like these yoga and meditation type of that's a market in itself. Yoga is very popular in America, coupled with some meditation practices, and there's people that really appreciate that. But people are not, the people's minds are not conditioned to see the meditation within the martial arts. Because not just for me, but there's a lot of men out there that yoga's not good enough. They need more of a physical expression, because that's who they are as a man. Like, they need to let that energy out. So, like, martial arts is for these type of people, men and women, where they got more energy than just that yoga. It's like this other type of energy that they need to learn how to transform in order to use it in a healthy and positive way. And it's something where, because it hasn't been introduced to the West properly, it's almost like I'm in a position where I have no other choice but to be the one that's trying to introduce it, because nobody else understands what it is. They just think it's either fighting or just something for kids or something. Oh, martial arts is just for kids, or it's just these violent fighters in the cage. No, like martial arts is for like the professor, the doctor, for the accountant, for the bus driver, the police officer. It's for everybody out there, you know.
It brings me out. It's a shame, and I see that like what you're doing. I do see it's very good with what you're doing, and like I say, I can't believe that you're not worldwide known at the moment. I'm sure you will be in the future. I was reading a documentary about Jet Li the other day, and what he was saying was that with his martial arts, they used him in some of his movies, and some of these movies that he was doing, he said it took him like 2 years to recover off some of these movies because it just wasn't him. What they were getting him to do was it just wasn't him. They were just corrupting him to make money off him. He said it wasn't me.
Wait, which actor?
Jet Li.
Oh yeah, yeah. Which movies was he talking about?
He was talking about